On Monday, Bear Stearns was worth $30 per share. By Friday, $2. 85 years of business history. Evaporated in 72 hours. Welcome back to Arthur Lee's Adventures. I'm Arthur Lee, and today we're conducting a corporate autopsy on Bear Stearns, the fifth largest investment bank in America. A Wall Street institution that survived the Great Depression, 2 world wars, and countless market crashes. Until it didn't. After 35 years watching companies rise and fall, I thought I understood how quickly things could unravel. Bear Stearns taught me I was wrong. Over the next 13 minutes, we'll examine 10 critical moments that transformed a $25 billion giant into ruins. From the scrappy startup that revolutionized Wall Street to the desperate weekend negotiations that ended it all. If you're fascinated by how empires fall, subscribe and join me every week as we uncover the stories behind the headlines. This is a story about greed, leverage, and the dangerous game of playing with other people's money. Let's begin the autopsy. Fact number 10. Bear Stearns was founded in 1923 by Joseph Bear, Robert Stearns, and Harold Mayer with just $500,000 in capital. These weren't Wall Street blue bloods. They were young clerks who saw opportunity where the big firms saw nothing. While the established houses like JPMorgan and Goldman Sachs focused on wealthy clients and large corporations, Bear Stearns went after the smaller players, the hedge funds, the entrepreneurs, the deals nobody else wanted. Their motto? We do what others won't. And it worked. By focusing on client service and taking calculated risks, they carved out their own corner of Wall Street. What started as a small equity trading house would eventually become the go-to firm for hedge funds worldwide. But here's what made Bear Stearns different from day one. They weren't just willing to take risks, they celebrated them. Fact number 9. By the 1990s, Bear Stearns became the largest prime broker to hedge funds globally. Think about that for a second. They were handling clearing and financing for over 5,000 hedge funds, controlling an estimated 50% of the prime brokerage market. This wasn't just business. This was a gold mine. Prime brokerage generated massive profits from high-margin services, lending money to hedge funds, processing their trades, holding their assets. Bear Stearns had built the perfect money machine. Hedge funds trusted them because Bear understood their world, the aggressive strategies, the complex trades, the need for speed and secrecy. While other banks looked down on hedge funds as risky upstarts, Bear Stearns embraced them, and the hedge funds rewarded that loyalty with billions in revenue. But here's the thing about building your empire on one client base. When that base turns against you, there's nowhere to hide. Fact number 8. In late 2007, Lehman Brothers analyst Brad Hintz issued a research report with a stark warning. Bear Stearns had the highest leverage ratio among major investment banks, 35-1. Let me break that down. For every dollar of capital Bear Stearns actually owned, they had borrowed $35 to make bets. Hintz warned that Bear was particularly vulnerable to a liquidity crisis. If clients started pulling money, the firm could collapse in days. How did Bear Stearns management respond to this credible warning from a respected analyst? They dismissed it as competitive attacks. They said their liquidity management was rock solid. They were confident in their risk controls. Here is what makes this truly incredible. Hintz was exactly right. Every single concern he raised would come true within months. But Bear's executives either couldn't see the danger or chose to ignore it. At this point, Bear Stearns was worth $25 billion. 85 years of careful relationship building. What happened next would destroy it all in months. Fact number 7. In July 2007, Bear Stearns faced its first major crisis. 2 internal hedge funds collapsed spectacularly. The high-grade structured credit fund and the high-grade structured credit enhanced leverage fund. These funds had lost $3.2 billion betting on subprime mortgage securities. Bear Stearns was forced to inject $3.2 billion to bail out one fund while the other filed for bankruptcy. Now that is a story worth telling. These weren't external clients. These were Bear's own funds, managed by Bear's own people, using Bear's own risk models. And they had blown up completely. This should have been a massive wake-up call about Bear's exposure to toxic mortgages. Instead, management treated it as an isolated incident. They told investors the firm had limited exposure to subprime debt. Many analysts now view this collapse as the opening act of the broader financial crisis. But at Bear Stearns, they were still in denial. Fact number 6. CEO James "Jimmy" Cayne was frequently absent from the office to play competitive bridge, including during the July 2007 collapse of those two hedge funds, when he was unreachable for hours while playing in a bridge tournament in Nashville. Let that sink in for a second. While his firm was hemorrhaging billions and investors were panicking, the CEO was playing cards. Cayne's passion for bridge became legendary on Wall Street. He would disappear for days at tournaments, miss critical meetings, ignore urgent phone calls. His absence during crisis moments highlighted a dangerous disconnect between senior management and reality. When you have been around markets as long as I have, you learn that leadership matters most during the storm. Cayne's bridge games became symbolic of everything wrong with Bear Stearns' culture. A CEO more interested in personal hobbies than managing risk. Delayed decision-making when speed was essential. This wasn't just poor judgment. This was abandonment of duty. Fact number 5. On March 10, 2008, Bear Stearns CFO Sam Molinaro told investors on a conference call that the firm had no liquidity problems. Quote, "We don't see any pressure on our liquidity, let alone a liquidity crisis." End quote. This public assurance was made just 4 days before Bear would be forced into emergency weekend negotiations. 4 days. Think about that timeline. Either Molinaro was catastrophically wrong about his own firm's financial position, or he was deliberately misleading investors. The timing shows just how quickly Bear's situation deteriorated, or how deeply management was in denial about their predicament. Here is what bothers me about this moment. Thousands of investors made decisions based on that conference call. Employees bought more Bear stock. Pension funds held their positions, all based on assurances from the chief financial officer that everything was fine. It wasn't fine. It was never fine. We're halfway through this corporate autopsy, and honestly, the patient was already dying. But what comes next is where the real tragedy unfolds. Which of these facts has surprised you most? I'm genuinely curious. Let me know in the comments. Fact number 4. On March 14, 2008, the Federal Reserve took an unprecedented step. They provided emergency funding to Bear Stearns through JPMorgan Chase. This was the first time since the Great Depression that the Fed had rescued a non-bank financial institution. Let me explain why this was so extraordinary. Investment banks like Bear Stearns weren't supposed to get Federal Reserve bailouts. That protection was reserved for commercial banks that took deposits from regular people. But Bear's collapse threatened the entire financial system. The Fed shattered decades of precedent to keep Bear operating through the weekend. This emergency action showed just how interconnected Wall Street had become, and how dangerous Bear's failure could be to everyone else. But here's the catch. The Fed's intervention came with a price. They weren't saving Bear Stearns. They were buying time to arrange a funeral. Fact number 3. On March 13, 2008, Bear Stearns experienced a classic bank run in the modern era. $17 billion in cash and securities were withdrawn by clients and counterparties in a single day. $17 billion. In one day. This wasn't depositors lining up outside branches like during the Great Depression. This was electronic transfers and margin calls happening at the speed of light. Hedge funds pulled their assets. Trading partners demanded more collateral. Credit lines were frozen. The digital age meant Bear had no time to recover or find alternative funding sources. By the end of that Thursday, Bear's cash position was critically low. The firm that had survived 85 years was hours away from collapse. And here's what makes this truly terrifying. Every withdrawal made the next withdrawal more likely. Panic became self-fulfilling prophecy. Fact number 2. Bear Stearns employees lost an estimated $2 billion in retirement savings and stock holdings when the firm collapsed. $2 billion. These weren't just numbers on a balance sheet. These were real people who had dedicated their careers to Bear Stearns. Many senior employees saw their Bear stock holdings, often comprising 80 to 90% of their net worth, become nearly worthless overnight. The firm's culture had encouraged employees to hold Bear stock. It was seen as a sign of loyalty and confidence. Veteran employees who had worked there for decades lost their entire life savings, their children's college funds, their retirement dreams, all because they believed in the company they worked for. This part genuinely bothers me. These people weren't making the risky bets that brought down the firm. They were just doing their jobs and trusting their leadership, and they paid the ultimate price for that trust. But here's what makes this story truly extraordinary. The most shocking revelation is still to come. Fact number 1. After 48 hours of emergency negotiations, JPMorgan Chase agreed to acquire Bear Stearns for $2 per share on March 16, 2008. $2. The 85-year-old firm was valued at just $236 million, down from $20 billion in market value just 1 year earlier. That's a 99% destruction of shareholder value. You cannot make this stuff up. Bear's stock had traded at $172 per share just 16 months earlier. The $2 price was deliberately punitive, designed to avoid moral hazard while preventing systemic collapse. But here's the real kicker. The deal required the Federal Reserve to guarantee $29 billion in Bear's toxic assets. Think about that. Taxpayers ultimately became responsible for Bear's mistakes. The firm was worth $200 million but required a $29 billion guarantee. That's the moment everything changed. Wall Street learned that some institutions were too big to fail and too dangerous to save. So what happened to the key players? Jimmy Cayne sold his Bear Stearns shares for $61 million. Not $2 per share like other shareholders, but at higher prices before the collapse. He kept his bridge hobby. Sam Molinaro, the CFO who assured investors everything was fine, he joined a private equity firm. Most Bear Stearns employees? They lost their jobs, their savings, and their trust in Wall Street. The building at 383 Madison Avenue still stands, but it houses different firms now, different people making different bets with other people's money. What can we learn from Bear Stearns? First, leverage is a double-edged sword. 35-1 seemed brilliant during good times. It was suicide during the crisis. Second, culture matters. When your CEO is more interested in bridge than business, that tells you everything about priorities. Third, diversification isn't just for portfolios. Bear's dependence on hedge fund clients made them vulnerable when those clients fled. And finally, the speed of modern markets means there's no time for second chances. 85 years of reputation can vanish in 72 hours. The patterns are clear for those who look. Remember, this video is for educational purposes only. It's not financial advice. Always do your own research and consult professionals before making any investment decisions. Which moment shocked you the most? The $2 sale price? Jimmy Cayne's bridge games during the crisis? Or the $17 billion bank run in a single day? Drop it in the comments. I'm genuinely curious which part of this story hits you hardest. If you want to see more corporate autopsies, subscribe and hit the bell. Next time, we're examining another Wall Street giant that fell even faster than Bear Stearns. That's another chapter of business history uncovered. The patterns are clear for those who look. Until next time, keep exploring.